Another day, another story. Murder is the act of causing the death of another person without legal justification or excuse. The U.S. Federal Code and most state codes distinguish between different degrees of murder, though state codes differ in how many degrees are recognized, 1, 2, or 3, and how the degrees are defined. In general, however, an act of murder falls under the category of first degree if one or more of the following elements are present. First, second, and third degree murder are legal classifications used in many jurisdictions to differentiate between varying degrees of criminal intent and culpability associated with homicide. The specific definitions and classifications may vary by jurisdiction, so it's essential to consult the laws of the relevant jurisdiction for precise details. Welcome to Tabo Eminent Channel. 1. First-degree murder. The perpetrator intended to cause the death of the victim or someone else. Malice aforethought or mens rea, and the perpetrator formed a plan to cause the victim's death or that of someone else or thought about that outcome for at least a minimum amount of time. Premeditation. First-degree murder is the most serious form of homicide, typically involving premeditation and a willful intent to cause the death of another person. Deliberate planning. The perpetrator consciously plans the act beforehand. Intent. There is a clear intention to cause the death of the victim. Malice aforethought. The act is committed with a malicious state of mind. First-degree murder usually carries the most severe penalties, often including life imprisonment or, in jurisdictions that allow for it, the death penalty. 2. Second-degree murder. The perpetrator caused the death of the victim while committing or attempting to commit any of a range of serious felonies, usually including burglary, robbery, rape, child abuse, arson, and kidnapping, among others. Some states, however, classify such felony murders as murder in the second degree. Second-degree murder is generally characterized by the absence of premeditation, but involves an intentional killing with malice aforethought. The act is not pre-planned or premeditated. There is still a deliberate intent to cause harm or death. The act is committed with a malicious state of mind, but it may not involve the same level of planning as first-degree murder. Penalties for second-degree murder are serious, but typically less severe than those for first-degree murder. 3. Third-degree murder. The victim was a police officer or other law enforcement official. The perpetrator killed the victim in a particularly gruesome fashion, such as by poison or torture. The perpetrator ambushed the victim, or the perpetrator killed more than one person. The classification of third-degree murder can vary widely among jurisdictions. In some places, it may refer to killings that occur without the intent to cause death, often associated with reckless or negligent behavior. Lack of specific intent. Unlike first and second-degree murder, third-degree murder may not require a specific intent to kill. In some cases, it may involve an act that shows a depraved indifference to human life or reckless conduct leading to someone's death. Penalties for third-degree murder are generally less severe than those for higher-degree murders. The specifics depend on the jurisdiction. The incident. Late one night, John, consumed by jealousy and anger, discovered that his spouse, Maria, had been having an affair. Fueled by rage, he impulsively grabbed a nearby weapon and confronted Maria in a fit of blind fury. First-degree murder. John had been nursing his suspicions for weeks and had even researched ways to confront a cheating spouse. On the night of the incident, he deliberately planned to catch Maria in the act, and in his rage, formulated a plan to end her life. He waited for the perfect moment and, with cold calculation, carried out the murder. In this case, John could be charged with first-degree murder due to the clear premeditation and intent. The prosecutor meticulously laid out the evidence supporting the charge of first-degree murder against John. Second-degree murder. Contrastingly, let's consider a different scenario. Suppose John, in the heat of the moment, discovered the affair and, consumed by overwhelming emotions, impulsively grabbed a weapon and confronted Maria without any prior planning. Despite lacking premeditation, the act still resulted in Maria's death due to John's intentional actions. In this case, John might be charged with second-degree murder, as there was no premeditation but the killing was intentional and carried out with malice aforethought. On the other side, the defense acknowledged John's responsibility for Maria's death, but argued against the charge of first-degree murder. They painted a picture of a man overwhelmed by a sudden surge of emotions, arguing that while John's actions were undoubtedly tragic, they lacked the premeditation required for a first-degree murder charge. Third-degree murder. Now imagine a situation where John, upon discovering the affair, recklessly drove to confront Maria, showing a complete disregard for the safety of others on the road. In a tragic turn of events, a car accident occurred during the confrontation, resulting in Maria's death. In this case, John might be charged with third-degree murder, as his actions were reckless, and Maria's death was a consequence of his gross negligence rather than a direct intent to kill. In a surprising turn, the defense also introduced a third-degree murder defense. They argued that John's reckless behavior, particularly the high-speed drive to confront Maria, showed a disregard for the potential consequences. The verdict: after days of intense deliberation, the jury rendered their verdict. The legal intricacies of first, second, and third-degree murder were carefully considered, and ultimately, the jury reached a decision. The judge read the verdict aloud in the hushed courtroom, revealing the fate of John. Sentencing. In the sentencing phase, John's fate lay in the hands of the judge. The judge considered the circumstances, John's prior criminal history, if any, and the impact of the crime on Maria's family. Finally, the judge handed down a sentence that balanced justice with mercy, reflecting the complexities of the human experience and the legal system's attempt to mete out fair punishment. Legal proceedings. As the case unfolds, the legal system in Rivertown will carefully examine the circumstances surrounding Maria's death. Prosecutors will analyze the evidence, witness testimonies, and John's state of mind to determine the appropriate charge. The court will then decide on the degree of murder, considering the level of intent, premeditation, and other relevant factors. This hypothetical scenario underscores the nuances involved in classifying murders into different degrees, showcasing how the legal system seeks to distinguish varying levels of culpability based on the circumstances surrounding the crime. The federal government and most states classify all murders that are not of the first degree as second-degree murders. The category of second-degree murder generally includes murders committed with malicious intent to kill or to cause grievous bodily injury, but not premeditation, and those that occur in the course of certain less serious felonies, i.e., felonies less serious than those listed in point 2 above. The 3 states that recognize third-degree murder define that category in different ways. In Florida, third-degree murder is any unlawful killing that occurs in the course of certain less serious felonies. In Minnesota, it is any act causing the death of another that is extremely dangerous and evinces a depraved mind, or that takes place in the course of illegal activities involving controlled substances. And in Pennsylvania, it is any murder that is not a murder of the first or second degree. The distinctions between first, second, and third-degree murder exist because most jurisdictions perceive that not all murders are equally serious as crimes, and that some murderers deserve more punishment than others. Thanks for watching. Request you to subscribe the channel.